Hi, I'm Gina-R-Farrar, reinvention coach, creator and host of Feminine Roadmap podcast, and leader of this amazing global community of women. If you are approaching midlife or are already in the thick of it, welcome home. Please grab a cup of something wonderful and join me for some real talk, practical strategies, and a big dose of sisterhood. I am so glad you're here. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here, and I am so glad to be back. This week, I am going to be sharing with you some of the things that I have been learning and experiencing and growing through. I'm going to be talking about how to honor your unfolding. When we think about this idea of unfolding, I want to share with you what I've been doing. So I've been going through this curriculum called The Artist's Way, and it's really a path to rediscovering, releasing, restoring your creativity. And in this process of quarantine, I began to paint for the first time seriously in my life. I've been a makeup artist for over 30 years, so I've painted body and I've painted faces. And as much as I loved that, all those years I really wanted to be a painter on canvas. But because of my own challenges, a judgment, something that happened when I was young in life, I carried forward this feeling that I couldn't do it. And there was so much pressure that I put on myself and really feeling less than and incapable of being able to create on that level. The interesting thing was I was creating on that level. I was just doing it on people. So now I can see as I look back how that has prepared me to paint. When quarantine was in full swing and there were a lot of things going on in the world that were just upsetting and there was nothing that I could do about it, I turned to art and I began to paint. And so I've been painting now consistently since probably April of 2020. It is now mid-October of 2020. And I have fully enjoyed the process of expressing myself. And so this journey of going through the Artist's Way, it's a 12-week process. I'm in my second go of this 12-week process. And it really brought to mind this idea of unfolding. And when I heard that word, I was so kind of caught up in the imagery of unfolding. And so I just kind of want to share with you 4 things that I've really found are necessary to really honor the process of unfolding. And when you think of unfolding, this is the way I want us to think about it. It's revealing or disclosing thoughts or information. It's opening or spreading out from a folded position. It's making clear by gradual disclosure. And so when I talk about us honoring our unfolding, I'm really saying that as we unfold, we are revealing or disclosing things about ourselves. And it's a process. You know, God has been at work in my life, and everything has unfolded in such a way, if you know what I mean. So as I shared, I was a makeup artist for 30 plus years, and now I'm a visual artist with my paint. And so I'm able to look back over the last 30 years of my life, and I can see the process of the unfolding that happened to bring me to this place where I am now doing the kind of art that I've always dreamt of doing. So the unfolding is I get involved in a multi-level marketing cosmetic companies way back before I get married. My manager gets me into brides. I love doing the brides. I leave the multi-level marketing company, but I stay involved with doing makeup on brides. And then I end up with a large corporate cosmetic company, and I've done outside of retail, I've done fashion show and video and film and a bunch of fun things. And it all unfolded as I moved forward. So I really want us to be thinking in terms of this revealing of ourselves in each season and stage of life, and that it does take each season and stage of life to fully express this unfolding of who we are. You know, you think about children when they're born, they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to feed themselves, they don't know how to walk. And as they grow, we see them begin to unfold, right? We see them begin to learn and grow, and we begin to recognize what a powerful journey that they are on. And we've forgotten what it's like to feed ourselves or to learn to walk or to do those things. But our lives have unfolded in such a way that now we're on to new and different learning experiences, right? And things that we are doing, being, and becoming. So let's go ahead and take a moment. And I've defined this unfolding, right, as revealing something, just disclosing ourselves, becoming more of who we are, becoming the best version of ourselves. If you've been a part of the Feminine Roadmap Tribe for any length of time, I hope you know that I believe that everyone was born for a purpose. There is something we are all meant to do. We are not all meant to do the same thing, nor does it have to be something public, television, radio, acting. It is how we show up in the world that we're in with the gifts and abilities and specialness that each one of us possesses. So as we're thinking about unfolding, that revealing of that specialness in this season of life, if we find ourselves stuck or lost, whether it's where we're at in our season and stage of life, or if it's because of quarantine, we have the opportunity to continue to lean in to this unfolding. One of the other words that really supported this idea is expansion. That's the act of becoming larger or more extensive and broadening ourselves. So please keep these things in mind as I'm sharing these 4 ways that we can honor our own unfolding in this season of life where we are right this minute, because each one of us is somewhere on the timeline of life. We are experiencing something unique to us in this season of life, and most of us are facing some kind of challenge and or decision. Maybe we're facing it, maybe we're not. So I hope that what I've been learning about my own journey and what I'm sharing with you will become a process that might be helpful for you as you go through your own unfolding journey. So as I think about unfolding, the first thing that I've really found in my own life and in my coaching business, I coach women and I help them unfold to really unlock who they are and get through some stories and breakthroughs. And in order to do those breakthrough activities, in order for me to be able to walk with a woman through her journey and get her to the other side, is self-awareness. There is no way that you or I can move beyond where we are now without the awareness of where we really are, that true assessment of the place that we stand at the moment. The first thing is that honest assessment. Now, that's an assessment that doesn't have judgment. If there were a way that you can look at your life objectively and say, who am I right now? Where am I at? And why am I here? Not, why did you do that? But, okay, what came together to allow me to be in this situation, in this place where I'm at right now? And as we honestly face ourselves and assess where it is we are and how exactly we got to this point, that empowers us to begin to address how we're going to make an adjustment. Now, once we recognize where we're at, we can acknowledge not everything is negative. Not everything is bad. Not everything is out of order. There are many things that have happened in our lives that have led us to the place where we are. So acknowledging, you know what? This experience, that learning opportunity, that relationship, all of those things contribute to who you are and where you're at. That's part of our self-awareness. The assessment of the overall picture of who we are right now, then recognizing the good and maybe the challenging that have brought us to where we are, and taking a moment to really honor that. And for me, one of the biggest growth journeys, honestly, for me, has becoming the person who can take the time to celebrate the little wins and to look back and acknowledge what I have done well. I think it's natural for us to be hard on ourselves or to make excuses for ourselves. But when we can balance out the way we see ourselves, it's not all, oh, I screwed that up. Oh, I wish I had been a better mother. Oh, I wish I'd been a better wife. Oh, I wish I'd been a better whatever. Let's stop and take a moment and let's become not self-critical, but self-aware. Let's think about who we are and how we got here and what are the things we have done well. What are the things that we have done right? Think about, when did you make that good decision? What was that good decision? Maybe take some time to write a list of ways that you have really made some good decisions, some decisions that have grown you in the right direction, and acknowledge those things and celebrate those things. It's really easy to look at the negative, but I think part of the self-awareness process for me has really been allowing myself permission to say, you know what? I did okay. That was a good decision. Back to my art analogy. One of the things that has happened for me in this season of my life is as I do the art, I allow myself to experiment. I allow myself to just let be what's going to be on the canvas or if I'm watercoloring on paper. And I allow myself to stay in a state of curiosity instead of judgment. And if something feels like it starts to feel tight and restrictive, I remind myself, it's okay. Just acknowledge, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before, and this is new for me, and it's okay. This is all part of learning to do something new, right? So children, when they learn to walk, we don't heavily criticize them when they fall down. We cheer them on and we pick them back up and we put them on their feet and we take out our cameras and we celebrate and we are so focused on helping that baby walk. You would think that they've just created a solution for every problem in the world. That's how excited we get for babies, right? I'm encouraging us as women to give ourselves that same celebration. That was a baby step. Good for you. Good for you. Did you do that thing? Try that thing. Just try it. I didn't say be the best at it. I didn't say be perfect at it. And that is probably our number one enemy is perfection. We need to give ourselves credit for moving toward something and having the courage to try something new and kind of suck at it. That takes courage, right? It takes courage to suck at something. It's okay for us to suck at something. So this is the journey of self-awareness that I've been on with painting has been the biggest example in my life, is really an honest assessment of myself and not judging, but just observing. Who am I? Why am I here? With painting specifically, why hadn't I painted before? And why have I, surrounded my children with art and they do art and they've been encouraging me to do art. So why am I resisting? So I really needed to recognize and acknowledge that, you know what? Seriously, never really thought about it until I started painting, is all those years of makeup really prepared me for the canvas because of my love of color, texture, blending, creating, just looking at it as beauty, what feels good, right? So as you recognize and acknowledge the things that you've done in your life and how they've brought you to this place, and they've positively contributed to who you are, I think that's so important. And then once we allow ourselves the moment to really give ourselves credit and celebrate what it is we have done right, then we can take the time and we can think, okay, let's identify and some things that I would like to change. Here you are becoming more and more self-aware, and you might recognize that something is no longer working for you. Like, this isn't working for me anymore. I don't like it when I behave that way, or I don't like it when I speak that way, or I no longer want to do that thing, whatever it is. Or I want to be more gracious or more forgiving or more adventurous or whatever it is. Once we identify in ourselves what we would like to change without the judgment, then we can develop a plan to make the change. Change does not come without awareness. It just doesn't come, because if I don't know I need to change, how in the world can I change? Unless some kind of external force pushes it on me, and then I may not change in the best way possible because it's happening in a negative way. Of course, we all know that we learn through our not so great choices as well, but if we could choose to go an easier route, meaning let's not struggle and cause ourselves the lessons, why don't we be proactive, become self-aware, and recognize and acknowledge what's good, give ourselves credit, and then identify where we want to change. Because really part of our unfolding is that revealing that it is a change thing. One of the things that came to my mind as I was thinking about this unfolding is the idea of metamorphosis. And we all know that butterflies start out as a caterpillar, and then they build a cocoon, and then they break out of the cocoon, right? When that butterfly emerges from the cocoon, their wings are wet and they're wrinkled. They're useless to them. That butterfly must expand and dry those wings as soon as it emerges. It uses its body as a pump, and it forces fluid into a series of veins, and bit by bit, their wings begin to unfold. They inflate like a balloon, and as that wing spreads out, there is a whole cleansing process that takes place in that butterfly. And if they do not go through the process of pumping and filling up their wings, so they fill them up and then they begin to pump them and dry them, they will never fly. And so that's why I'm encouraging myself and sharing this with you, that in this process of unfolding, there are certain difficult things that I must do. There is an awareness that I must push through this difficulty. I must be honest and do what needs to be done, because I want to be able to become the best version of myself, to be able to fly, if you will. That proverbial example of being able to fly. So for me, this idea of metamorphosis with self-awareness, it's like that butterfly instinctively knows that it has to do that with its wings, or it will never fly, and then it won't be able to live. And a lot of us maybe have had lives that have been stifled in different ways, and we haven't spread our wings. We haven't really been living. So this awareness that I'm talking about allows us to recognize, where have we clipped our own wings, or where have we not exercised our wings? And what are those things that we need to change to become more effective and a truer version of ourselves in this season of life? So the first thing was awareness. The second thing that I have really been processing is the idea of surrender. In this process of unfolding, I really need to surrender to the process. And again, if you've been a part of my tribe, you've heard me say process was something that I really struggled with because I really want things to be like one and done. It's not like that. It's what I have found out. And so I've had to really learn how to lean into process. And that's that idea of surrender. It is one of those principles that I've learned more about in this season of my life, and that is to stop resisting. I really need to stop resisting because resistance actually is a defensive stance and it causes suffering. It causes delay. When I am unwilling to face what is, and I am unwilling to deal with where I'm at, what I'm going through, I basically prolong the agony. I prolong the difficulty, and sometimes I cause whatever's happening in my life to grow in the wrong direction. So when I think about surrender, it's not like, well, there's nothing I can do. I guess I'll just surrender. It's not that kind of surrender. It's more of a yieldedness. It's, for me, really accepting the reality for right now so that I know what it is that I'm dealing with and stopping the resistance, wishing that it were different. Why does this happen to me? How come? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that my whiny self comes up with, the more I do that, the more difficult I make it for myself. And I'm really, really trying to work on using why. Why is my favorite question, but instead of, why did this happen? I'm trying to be more objective and use why more positively, like surrender, like, okay, this is happening. Why is this happening to me? What can I learn from what's happening to me? Surrender to the lesson. Surrender to it in the way that it's a yieldedness to a positive goal. There's this saying, what you resist persists. And it's that idea that we're just complicating things for ourselves, right? And this idea of surrender, it can feel like defeat, but I don't mean surrender, I'm losing. I mean surrender, I'm yielding to the truth of what is, which allows that resistance to drop so that I can begin to find the flow in this new system, circumstance, life situation, depending on what it is. And once we get to that place where we accept, okay, this is what it is. This is what I'm struggling with. This is the circumstance. This is the situation. Again, whatever it applies to for you, then we can begin to take intentional action because we've gone through this whole process of self-awareness, right? We've recognized what's been working. We are identifying what needs to change. And now we need to surrender to the fact that we are where we are and what can we do? Resistance is futile. So why don't we yield to the acceptance of it is okay? Now we can intentionally say, but what would we like it to be? This is where we can begin to really open up, unfold, expand our idea of what we want and move toward it. And so this is really a process that in my coaching business, this is something I walk through with each of my clients because once we get some of those doors unlocked, some of those belief systems unlocked, then we can begin to develop a plan to move forward. It has worked beautifully in my life and in my client's life, and it's something that takes time to unfold, right? We must surrender to what is happening, how it's happening, but we participate. We don't lay down and die. We participate in the forward motion of the solution or the change that we're looking for. And so the next step for me after awareness and surrender is faith. Faith is believing in something you cannot see. It is the ability to believe something better is coming down the pike, right? It's trusting the timing of your unfolding. So there's an expectancy to faith. It is a belief that changes how we think and behave. You know, this last week in Bible study, they were talking about faith. And it's so integral to my life on a spiritual level, as well as how I live my life in investing in my marriage and investing in my children. So for me, when I speak about faith, I'm actually speaking about my faith in God and that faith, how it works out in my life and in my world. So that expectancy is, as I walk by faith and I believe in this process of knowing myself, yielding myself, and then believing that the way that I choose to speak, the way that I choose to live, the decisions that I make, they all accumulate to move me in a direction, right? That is both positive and negative, depending on the decisions that we make. But my belief changes how I think and behave, hopefully. But when we believe that there is hope, right, in our situation, hope for our marriage, hope for our children, hope for, the world to get back to some sense of normal, because we're in the middle still of these restrictions that we're all living under. As we have faith, we are able to unfold. We're able to expand our perspective beyond what's happening right now, beyond the things that we don't understand. We begin to recognize that there is something we can do. We can open up. We can increase our scope of understanding. We can get greater clarity on how we fit in the picture, how we want to fit into the future picture. One of the other things that came to me is this idea of becoming, right? I feel like faith really supports that idea of becoming, that possibility of change in a thing that has being. It's the idea of transformation, right? When we have faith, we have the ability to believe in that expansion, in that becoming, our life becoming different, our marriage becoming better, our children, growing up and being productive. Like, faith allows us to continue to move in a positive direction and become more and more of the person that we want to be. It's that process of metamorphosis. It's really recognizing that these things all contribute to that positive change in our lives and honoring the process of unfolding, that idea that it just takes some time. And I've read that our life unfolds in proportion to our courage. And so we got to have faith. We've got to have faith that there can be a better day, that there can be more opportunity, that we can restore what has been broken. Faith is so important, and it's linked with hope and gratitude. We marry the faith, hope, and gratitude, and those three things together are so powerful in our process of unfolding. It really is. It's so incredible. And that leads me to the idea that with faith, there's patience in the timing, right? If we are walking by faith in our life, and if you don't have a personal faith like I do, think about this. When you believe that there can be a better day, that things can get better, right? Then we are able to stay our course, and we're not quitting. We're not stopping, believing that we will get to where we're going as long as we keep moving. There was a quote by an author, Julianne O'Connor, and it said, "The sooner we let go of holding on, the sooner we can hold on to the beauty of what's unfolding before us. Nothing was ever meant to stay the same forever." So this idea of faith, right? That we got to let go and have faith in what's coming so that we can find that beauty of the unfolding in who we are, because change is actually our friend. So after we've worked through self-awareness and surrender and really walking by faith in our life, whatever that means for you, the next thing that came to my mind is that idea of grace. It's how you accept yourself. It's how you accept others, circumstances. It's a courteousness toward ourselves and others. It's a gentleness. It's being gentle toward ourselves first. And as we're gentle toward ourselves, it is easier to be gentle toward other people. You know, as we unfold as women, as we become the greater version of ourselves, and we're going through this process, one of the greatest areas of opportunity is to let ourselves off the hook, to forgive ourselves, to extend grace for ourselves, because we are still on a process of learning and growing. I can look back at different circumstances as a mother and as a wife, and sometimes I cringe because I wanted so badly to do those things so well. But I was in the process of becoming. As I became aware early in my marriage that I had an anger problem and I didn't know how to control it, then I had to surrender to the fact that this isn't going to go away. This is what it is. Okay, what is my anger from, and what can I do about it? And then I used my faith, and a woman discipled me and walked me through for several years to get through to the other side, to learn how to deal with my emotions and to identify what was triggering me so that I could heal from the wounds that were causing this behavior. I was making the choices, which was my responsibility, but there was a backstory to it that I needed to deal with. And that was where I had to grow in grace. Grace was one of the biggest focus words of mine for my 20s. It still is, but I hung and clung and gripped the word grace for several years to learn what it was to extend grace to myself. What did it look like? And I began to realize that I could not extend grace to anyone else if I could not extend it to myself, which explained why I had no ability, because I was on the hook with myself all the time. Constant criticism, constant looking back and you screwed that up, you screwed that up, you screwed that up, you failed. I was so hard on myself. And really, I can look back now, and these steps that I'm sharing with you were the steps that I took. I became aware, man, I am just angry all the time. What is my problem? And I remember thinking, what is my problem? This is ridiculous. I don't even have anything to be angry about, but it was just like bubbling up all the time, every day. So I had to be honest that I had a problem. And then I needed to, acknowledge, okay, are you going to stay like this? Is this the legacy you're going to leave with your family? Are you going to change? Right? And at that point in my life, that was the unfolding then. Me being, by God's grace, becoming aware that I had this big problem, and then finding someone to coach me through it, to walk me through it, to disciple me through it, so that my life could be different and my family's life could be different. I had to surrender myself to her guidance, to her mentorship. When she said, did you do this thing? And I said, I didn't feel like it. She was like, hey, I didn't ask you if you felt like it. I asked you if you did it. So I had to surrender myself to her. I had to surrender myself to the process. And then I had to have that faith that by doing that hard work in my 20s, and by goodness, it took me my whole 24 to 30. Those years, I was head down, running hard at changing the woman that I was because I wanted to leave a different legacy than would have been left if I had never changed. I wanted peace. I wanted unity. I wanted laughter in my home. I always say peace in my walls. I used to pray for peace in my walls. I did not want my children to grow up knowing what it was to have yelling and fighting and anger as part of their everyday life. Obviously, no one's perfect. And obviously, we have not always handled ourselves in a stellar manner, but it wasn't the norm. And that was the goal. I think it definitely was something I struggled with in my 20s, hence the reason I prayed for peace in my walls and I clung to the idea of grace. And as I became more gentle with myself, and as I extended myself that grace, then I could extend grace to other people, starting with my children and my husband and moving out from there. Now, when we release judgment and criticism, I don't know about you ladies, but when I am being so critical and so judgmental, I get nowhere but into a deeper pit. And I am not a fun lady to be around when I am being a jerk like that. When I am just being a jerk to me or a jerk to someone else, as soon as I spend all my time thinking about crummy things and crummy emotions, what do? I drag everybody down with me. It's a big old ugly pit. But even in that, I have to extend myself grace and recognize, back to go through the process again. Okay, you've been critical and judgmental. Become self-aware, acknowledge it. Face up, man. Look at it in the face, lady, and get it together. Now, surrender to, I've been resisting something. And that's causing me to feel these negative feelings. I've got to stop resisting. I need to face it. I need to surrender. I need to accept the fact that this makes me unhappy or things aren't turning out the way that I want them to. What can I do differently? And then by faith, trusting that this is all part of the bigger picture that I can't understand, keeping that sense of hope alive, that timing is everything and I need to stay in the game. And that grace back, it's like this is the cycle I've been practicing in my own life for 30 years solid. And it has been such an effective process for me and the women that I coach. It's an incredible thing. And of course, each person has a different story and a different structure of belief that needs to be broken down, but it is still a process that is applicable to each of us as we use it. And as you practice it, it becomes, you might be step 1, 2, 3, back to 1, down to 3, and that grace is kind of like the wrapping of all of it. Every single step takes that grace. It takes that courage. Grace requires courage and patience and a sense of humor. It wraps up all the steps of self-awareness. Give yourself grace when you're looking at your ugly bits as well as your good bits. Give yourself grace. It takes grace to say, yep, I did that well, and nope, I didn't do that well. And then give yourself grace as you yield to the reality, as you surrender to what's going on and you begin to think there's got to be a different way and I'm going to find it. Surrender, accept, stop resisting, allow some flow. And then grace allows us to allow the flow and to trust, right? And our faith, the hope. It takes grace to be patient with this timing, with everything taking what it takes to get where it's going to get. It just takes a lot of grace. Grace is an evidence of inner strength, and I think all of us have the opportunity to really grow in grace. Every day of our life until the day we die. I don't think grace is something that we acquire and then just have. At least for me, grace has been an ongoing process. It has been a becoming. It has definitely been an unfolding for me. I ran across this quote by Myrna Loy, and it said, "Life is not a having and a getting, but a being and a becoming." And I liked that thought that, you know what, we can get so caught up. I get so caught up. Let me take personal responsibility for this, for doing this and accomplishing that and handling this. And there's always 50 things on my mind at all times. And in those quiet moments, when I rest in faith, when I extend myself grace, I can recognize that I can be still. I'm becoming something. I can look back and see all the becoming that has happened, all the unfolding that has happened, and acknowledge all of that growth and be at peace with where I am now, in the sense that, see, I have grown. Yes, I have. And that growth is going to continue to happen. And it's always easier to see backwards than forwards. So really want to encourage us today, ladies, that we can honor this unfolding that's constantly happening over our life. And we all get stuck. We all have those moments where we just aren't sure we're where we meant to be. And I feel like midlife is one of those places where we all kind of go, what the heck? How did I end up here, and why? Why is this the way it is? And that's what I'm here for, is to have these conversations with the reality of how we all feel. And I want to encourage each one of us to remember that it is in community, it is in the love and support, it is in the trusting, it's in the self-awareness, it's in the surrender, it's in the faith, it's in the extending grace, as we keep practicing these things over and over, that our unfolding happens. And the beauty of who we're becoming continues to expand. Not that you weren't beautiful before, not that you weren't unfolded in some sense before, but this is the extra level. This is the next season. This is the next stage. And it just keeps coming. So while we are here on this earth, my friends, I want to encourage us to continue to honor the unfolding of who we are and who we are becoming. I have this quote by Oprah Winfrey. "The answers keep unfolding as your life expands, if you're willing to see things for what they are and what they can be." And that kind of sums up what I've been expressing about the idea of becoming aware, right? Your life is going to continue to unfold. So this process of evaluation, self-evaluation, being aware of who you are, where you're at, where you're headed, so you can stay your course, my friends. Always wrapped up with that expression of grace to ourselves first, so that we can extend it to others. Have you ever heard that expression that you can't pour out of an empty cup, right? So as you and I grow in grace toward ourselves, and we're living a life of faith, meaning we have hope and encouragement, we're being gentle on ourselves, we're allowing ourselves this process of becoming, we're no longer resisting the change, but we are finding ways to grow in and around that change, then our cup naturally fills up in some ways when we stop with the criticism and the judgment. And it's so important to have grace if you and I want to heal and shift in our lives. And a lot of times, this process is done easier in relationship with someone who can walk through it with you. So I encourage you to find someone to do this process with you. Preferably, you want to choose someone that is trustworthy, someone who is safe, someone who will hold a space for you. That could be a sister, a good friend. It could be a coach, a mentor. Whatever it is, this process in this season of life has been so impactful, like I said, in my life and in the lives of those women that I've had the honor of coaching, because we are unfolding in some way, shape, or others. And sometimes we get stuck and sometimes we get lost. And so I hope that these steps have been helpful for you. Let me review them one more time before we close out our day today. Number 1 is self-awareness, knowing yourself, genuinely assessing yourself without judgment or criticism, really understanding yourself, recognizing your areas of growth, honoring those, and then identifying areas of opportunity and developing a game plan to make the necessary changes, and then surrendering to what is right now. Accept where you are. Stop resisting. Once you accept, then you can make a plan of action and begin to take those steps. And the third step is faith. There is expectancy. Expect that things will change and that there's hope in our faith about life and that there is a timing to everything. Put your faith in the idea that everything happens in its time. We need to continue to be active and moving forward, but trusting the timing of what's going on around us. And the fourth step is to wrap all of these steps, continually bathe them in grace. Grace toward yourself, understanding who you are, where you've been, and then using that grace to pour it out on the people around you. I have found that growth and grace in my life has been the greatest gift to me and has definitely been a blessing to my family and my friends. So, friends, I hope that these steps have been helpful for you today, because I know for me, it's been life-changing. And for those that I've helped, they have said it has been life-changing. It's not that I have any special magic. It's just, like I said, it's honoring that process of unfolding and recognizing that there are levels and steps to it, and we are all becoming something. Why don't we focus on becoming something and someone that we really want to be? Because life is a great, continuous unfolding. It is happening. Why not partner with it and get the results that we would love to have instead of letting life happen to us? My friends, it is my greatest desire that you know that you have value, that there's a reason that you are here on this planet, and that using these tools and strategies can help you become more effective in every area of your life. And that helps us become more energetic toward our purpose, more energetic toward our relationships and our lives. So today, friends, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I want to invite you to head over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 193. You can listen to this episode there. You can also listen in on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Spotify, and Spreaker. While you're at my website, I would love to have you join my tribe. I send out periodic encouraging emails. And please, friends, also follow me over on YouTube, Feminine Roadmap, Instagram, @FeminineRoadmap. I also have a personal @gina-r-farrar on Instagram. Let's start engaging. I would love to know what it is that you ladies are thinking about. What is on your heart? What kind of topics would really speak to where you're at in your life? I would love to hear from you all. And if I get some great questions, I would love to answer those on an episode. So please send in your questions to our tribe @feminineroadmap.com. And I will get those personally, and I will answer those for you in the coming weeks. I want to thank you again so much for being a part of my tribe. I appreciate you taking the time to grab a cup of something wonderful and listen in. I hope you have been encouraged, my friends. I look forward to sharing more encouragement with you in the weeks to come. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.